Dr. Yusuf Tanko is the Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. He joins me live from our Abuja studio. As we enter the new year, Nigerians are eager to know what government has planned to address the pressing issues of poverty. Dr. Sununu, congratulations on your the conferment of a new traditional title, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to Nigerians too.
The last time we spoke, you were Minister of State for Education. What has it been like crossing over to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs?
Well, it's really a Herculean task, but however, that you must know that the two ministries are interrelated, because the basic foundation that you can use to eradicate poverty, as stated by Mr. President when he was assenting to the act that establishes NELFON, was education. So it means through education you can address poverty, and where you have marked poverty, education will also be affected. So it's working in the same direction, but with a different approach, each trying to make sure that the education standard of the country is improved. Because if you look at the actions that, what are the key ways of eradicating poverty in every country is: one, you must address the issue of education. Two, you must address the issue of shock, those who can get support at the shortest instant time, like the conditional cash transfer of our country. And then secondly, you must also look at job creations. And thirdly, you must address the youth unemployment so that they can be empowered to link with the job you have created so that the industrial revolution of the country can succeed. So for me, the two are interrelated and interwoven. Separating one out of the other may only pushes us backward. So I think we are going to have a very robust relationship between Humanitarian Affairs Ministry and that of the education, so that we can marry along together to address the issue of out-of-school children, which has also have to do with the poverty, also address the issue of infrastructural decay, and also work together to see how we can improve the skill of average Nigerians so that we can get it better, as Mr. President envisaged in his own 8-point agenda.
I like that you have found a link between your former ministry and this current one. But you are taking the reins alongside Professor Yewada after the previous minister's suspension following some controversies. Have you been able to identify what the major challenges are with the operation of this ministry?
Yes, we have really tried to identify the major problem of that ministry. One of them is lack of coordination and malalignment. In terms of there are a lot of various programs that have human faces in the ministry, but unfortunately they are disjointed and not coordinated without any collaboration within and outside the sphere of the ministry. And then we also find that from our own assessment, there is a malalignment between the executive and administrative political aspect of the ministry led by the minister, and also the technocrat of the ministry led by the permanent secretary. And that has really caused a lot of issues and really even hinders the progress and achievement of what government is beseeched to achieve in the shortest possible time because of that malalignment. And the fact that you find that a lot of accusations were there, but in most instances, they are directed towards administrative officers, with the technocrats are completely excluded in that. The question is that the technocrats are not advising the political head of the ministry properly, or is it that they are advising, but they are downplaying or even outrightly neglecting the advice received by the team of the permanent secretaries and directors? So I think that is also a major alignment issue. And then the other challenge is humanitarian affairs is supposed to be national in outlook, starting from the local government level up to the federal level. But you find that each and every local government and states are doing it in a disjointed manner. And this is because we lack a council of humanitarian affairs and poverty reduction that will develop to do the ministry that will, the ministry will lead in development of policy, quality assurance and oversight, which is also lacking. As such, we have already agreed and we are into a lot of advocacy visits to the state government so that we can have a strong council of humanitarian affairs and poverty reduction that will also allow us to work together and achieve our goal. And then the major challenges as of today, which one cannot do away with, is the issue of confidence, trust of average Nigerian and international community as far as that ministry is concerned. For Nigerians, they believe it is just a drain pipe for government officials to do what they want with money of the government, which is against the policy of the federal government and which is also against the policy of Mr. President. And that led us to the President to act decisively. And in trying to correct that, Mr. President not only posts a minister in that ministry, he has seen the reason why, because of the enormity of the burden of poverty and humanitarian crisis in the country, to post 2 ministers into the ministry. And which we have also agreed to work together as a brothers and sisters so that we can all put our own effort to make sure that the making Nigeria prosperous as a besieged by President become a reality in the shortest possible time. And also, lastly, to see, we have seen a lot of changes. And this is something I mentioned here, even when I was in education, that when you say you want to correct, there's somebody you have a broken, a fracture of a forearm. When you want to correct that, you are going to inflict some pains, and that pains are enormous enough. That's why in medical profession you have to use anesthesia. Now, for Mr. President, we have a lot of reform program that the people that we think that ministry is supposed to serve as a strong buffer in absorbing or reducing the shock that Nigeria will be experiencing through the process of reform in the country. And so the
Dr. Sununu,
to ensure that
I like the example you have used. If you can hear me, in fact, some have said that in the medical field, anesthesia comes before the real operation, and that Nigerians should have had this buffer, made. This ministry should have grown wings and established even before the very critical policy decisions Mr. President made earlier on in the early days of his administration. But as we speak now, Nigerians are eager for meaningful change and tangible results from this ministry. I'm wondering if you consider this a peculiar...
I think that was what you done, but what we got different here is that the buffers were there, but because of the disorganized nature of implementation, it's not making impact as so desired. And when Mr. President had the cries of Nigerians that the necessary impact that is expected is not there. So Mr. President had to act radically by even suspending a lot of activities, reviewing the activities, and also putting in necessary machinery to ensure that those buffers that we're anticipating come into being and work satisfactorily as expected.
It's a lot of work for this ministry, Dr. Sununu. When you consider the current situation that we're battling with, the World Bank's latest report indicates that over 50% of Nigeria's population live below the national poverty line. How daunting is this challenge, and precisely what are the strategies you intend to employ to address it?
Well, it's really, that's really a fact, and that's what we're also working with. To add it to that, that we even have a threat of hunger has been besieged by United Nations World Food Project, the program that over 33 Nigerians will be affected with hunger. But you see, in all these things, it's a holistic approach that the federal government, under the leadership of Mr. President, is taking this thing. Where are the issues? The major issue to address, and in that prioritizing order, is the fact that the major issue that people as to where we are now at the natural disaster as seen by a lot of flood, and also secondly by the insurgency. And for that insurgency, as we all agree as of today, people are traveling by road from Abuja to Sokoto and many other places, except for some times now we have never had any major attack except the one that just happened, was it yesterday in Shinkafi local governments. This is to show that there is recorded success as far as security is concerned. And now when you address the issue of the security is concerned, for us as a ministry, where are we going to come in now? We need the issue, this resettlement of the people that were displaced become a major issue. Also, their integration into the society, and also the fact that education cannot wait at any time. We must also address that issue. And meanwhile, we have to also look at what are the buffers that we can provide as a stopgap. And this is where the social network comes into play. And that's why we have already finished and perfecting the inadequacies that we have found in the previous implementations. And what are those inadequacies? You find that really, despite the fact that there are multiple interventions from government, ranging from Empower, from conditional cash transfer, trader money, this money and that, but the issue is lack of transparency in the whole system. So that Nigerians, even if those who are collecting, who are benefiting from it, did not even have the trust that it happened. So we have to address the issue of that trust, so that Nigerians will believe in government and what government is doing. And in doing that, we must ensure that we have a proper record keeping, that will ensure that our social safety net register is working and has been updated to meet the test of the time that can stand the international best practice of how social registers are formed. And once we do that, we have regained international community's confidence in Nigeria. We also believe in what we are doing, because people now see it. And the other issue that we have also noticed previously was the absence of a third eye in terms of executing humanitarian affairs intervention in the country. It means that the journalists, the non-governmental organization, the civil society group were completely excluded. And now we believe that for us to improve in our transparency, for Nigerians to also believe in what we are doing, we must join all these three together to work together as a team, so that they can be our also trackers who can tell the Nigerians what we are doing, and we'll also be able to advise us on where we go wrong, because we see it is going to be apparent, just as they're being provided by the Freedom of Information Act and many other government documents that we can rely on with. And when we do that, and people believe that what we are doing is transparent, I assure you that even Nigerians can approach the ministry for the confidence they have in the ministry to also act on their behalf to intervene in some humanitarian crisis in some areas. And we have demonstrated this. When we came in, we had the issue to go and share some palliative in Bauchi State and also in Plateau State. It was done in an orderly manner, and civil society group were there. The Red Cross Society and the International Red Cross Society was also there to serve as a factor in supervising what we are doing. And really, it was attested as one of the best way to do it. And we are going to do it as a part of, since we have just do 1 or 2 and we find the benefit, we'll now go to see how we can make it more robust, more transparent, and more accountable to average Nigerians, so that Nigerians can see that what the president is a decision to happen in terms of serving as a buffer zone, the ministry is up to that in its performance.
Dr. Sunudu, when you mentioned carrying journalists along, it felt like a deja vu for me, because I remember speaking with Dr. Betta Edu in the early days of our appointment, and that was exactly what she said about transparency. You know, there are huge expectations in the area of transparency and accountability, and some have said these are even crucial for both local and international collaboration. As we speak right now, the NSIP, the National Social Investment Programs, which was initially under the presidency before the creation of the ministry, has gulped over 3 trillion naira since 2016. And yet many Nigerians are saying, you know what, we haven't seen as much impact of all of these monies on the issue of poverty. There are growing voices arguing that the impact has been disproportionately low, with many still struggling to break free from the chains of poverty. I'm curious about the steps that are being taken this time to not only improve on these programs, but to improve in its effectiveness and implementation in such a way that everyone is carried along. Is that a priority for you this time?
This is what I told you. Earlier I mentioned that there is a malalignment within the ministry, even between the political head by the minister and then the technocrat of the ministry, led by permanent secretaries and the directors. So you find that, sorry to say, it's not really to say that there are a lot of issues that really we have to control, we have to look at it closely, which we have looked at them and we are working and we are finding solutions to it. And I mentioned that, let's see, you have mentioned a lot of people's report in terms of the 3 trillions that have been spent without a regard. And you also, a lot, even when I was in RICB yesterday, so much billions were being mentioned that have been siphoned from the account of the ministry. But I asked the question is, why is it that always, when it happens, only the ministers responsible for that ministry are the ones indicted, or the head of NSPA that are indicted, who are the administrative head, without any director or any other person being implicated? So it means that there is a disjointed running of that ministry. Either there is a better power from the head, or the inputs of the technocrat of that ministry is not being respected by the head. And therefore, somewhere somebody, let me take the position of sitting door lock, so that whatever happens, I will know I'm not part of it. So, and we have tried to see how we can correct that malalignment in trying to agree that everybody is a major stakeholder. Everybody is a major stakeholder. And more or less, there are also some financial procedures, which is guided by financial regulations, which we agree that we must adhere to that 100%. Because once you adhere, you see, one thing with government fund, Without conspiracy, no kobo can be used. And therefore, the best way is to see how can you put into practice those procurement processes, those processes that allowed you to spend government money properly done. And that's why we said that in doing that also, when it comes, you can buy and this, but when it comes to implementation, you meet the diversion of such fund. And I say, okay, we will insist that we'll follow the due process in procurement processes. And then in terms of distribution, to reach average Nigerians, we must also collaborate with the local and international body to ensure that those targeted to benefit from that palliative or relief are the ones that benefit for it. Let's take, for example, if you look at a lot of, even when I was in House of Rep, and even right now, a lot of members are doing a lot of palliatives. You will see somebody who has benefited from intervention from the House of Rep member, benefited from that of the senator, benefited from that of the local government chairman, state, and many other. He also benefited from the what do you call it, the grants and loans for agriculture, and many other things. One person benefiting from more than 15 to 20 intervention of government with somebody who is the actual target to benefit from that getting nothing. So how can you convince that person that this thing is done? Definitely he cannot be a decent. But when we work hard and we ensure that things circulate the way it's supposed to be, and it has reached many people, then Nigerians will believe that this government are decent. Let me just say one example now. When I was in the House of Rep, I was in one of this country, Rwanda. And I asked the chairman of Rwandan Corporation, when I was looking at the NHIS, that they are paying, Rwandan is paying $3 for a 1 year this thing. And I said, what is the response? She said 100%. And I said, why and how it is come? He said, the government has earned the trust of people. When you say that you see Coca-Cola first thing in the morning by 8 a.m. in front of your door, you will see it. So that's why whatever the government asks, it has been done. So, and that's why I mentioned earlier for us, the major crisis and major issue of that ministry and what Mr. President is directing us is to gain back the trust of Nigerians and international community on that ministry. And once
Dr.
that trust is restored,
we are counting on that.
And the only way we can get that restored is to ensure that there is effective distribution of the little resources we have.
You know, some have said that these poverty alleviation programs were poorly designed and executed amidst allegations of mismanagement, corruption, and inefficiency that we have talked about. So there are quite a number of them that have been suspended following what happened prior to this time, Empower, Trader Money, Money Market, and what have you. Are you scrapping them completely, or you are bringing them together into a single stream?
You see, the whole of the DC, if you look at it, it's a National Social Investment Project Agency. It's the body responsible for coordinating all of the social investment program of government. And then each one has its own coordinating office and coordinating officers who work together with the chief executive officer and then reporting to the ministry. You understand, the only issue is that there was, I mentioned earlier, that there was no alignment and there is no constant check in the distance. Take, for example, the conditional cash transfer. You understand? And many other cash transfer we have. We don't have a unified social register that would be trusted by all. So that you say, if what we are announcing is see how we can now unify our activity through production of one single social register. And the process has already commenced because we have got all the necessary equipment that we needed to ensure that there is a verification of the 15 million force that were initially enumerated, so that we get who is actually who and what is there and who is who really have his own complete digital identification, and those who don't have. Those who don't have will really be enumerated and get their digital identity given to them, and then definitely it will start as soon as possible. That's a fact, and Mr. President has. What is most important is the political will and commitment of Mr. President. For somebody that initially he has one person in a particular in the ministry, and now increasing the number to 2, goes to show that there is a political will to make it better in that ministry.
There are concerns about the social safety register's accuracy that you mentioned. and its effectiveness. So the work that is ongoing, are you reviewing the same document? Because I recall that the National Economic Council at some point, I think maybe it was 1 or 2 years ago, in a way discarded the one used by the last administration due to what they call flaws, despite being produced in conjunction with the World Bank. Which of the documents precisely are you working with now?
We are working with that document. You see, it's not that even if it has been discarded, what we are doing is we are revalidating it. When you revalidate, because of the accusation that were mentioned, we will revalidate it and also expand it. Because you see, why do we need to expand it and why do we need to revalidate it? That is has produced overyears, and along the line we might have lost some people. And then along the line, some people wouldn't have qualified now to be in that social register because by virtue of their destiny already, they have moved out of that poverty that is supposed to leave them in that register. So, and also there are some people who by virtue of certain circumstances, in terms of displacement, in terms of a lot of areas that we have also, before they don't have the need to be in the register. And then today they have that need to be in that register. So we have to, that's why we have to review it. And then that's why we also look at the accusation mentioned by people. Some said the way even the register was organized, nobody, if you go to your society, if you ask them, has ever somebody come to ask you who is the most poorest person in your environment, how many toilets do you have, whether you use a closet or you use water system or you defecate in the bush, they'll tell you that nobody has gone to ask them questions. So people believe that really the register was just raised in them for a few days. But what we say now, okay, let us now follow the practical steps, because the first things that can make Nigerians trust whatever that ministry is concerned is the efficiency and the transparency in generating the register we are going to work with, or we are revalidating. So when we say we are going to start, it may be this, but it's easier to even revalidate what you have than this.
Some critics have also claimed that components like market money, trader money, what have you, have become mere gimmicks meant to secure more votes during elections. You are also coming on board with a robust political background, two-term member of the House of Representatives. How do you, address these issues, that this is not just an APC thing, that will benefit those who have supported your party?
Well, if you look at the statement of the CBN and then the backing of the president, you find that really there are robust issues that we have been put in to address the issue. Even though a lot, average Nigerian, we are in a democratic era. Whatever you say, people will still go ahead and make their own criticisms, which they have right to do that. And we also listen to that criticism so that we can make our work to be nearly perfect. You see, the whole thing is, if you want to ensure that there is transparency, it must be generated in the most transparent way. And there must be certain things that you must ensure they have. The issue is, what is that identity? And it was all conclusively agreed, and the central bank has also mentioned that. Henceforth, all those money to be shared must have a digital identity. And this digital identity has 3 or more components. And one of the more components is you have to have your NIN number, 2, you must have your BBN number, and 3, you must have your bank account number. And when you have these 3, and you are working with them, and a system that you have a single register that you are working with, it prevents duplication, multiple access, and so many issues. It will also improve transparency. But the issue and question being raised by average is that not everywhere you have a bank, and not everywhere you have this thing. But what we have agreed now, whenever we are going to revalidate this register, we have to work, and we are working completely with the NIMC, National Identity Management Commission, so that we can work together with them. As you are enumerating you, they are also giving you your NIN, and also we have to also work with World Bank and other bank. World Bank have been represented there, so that at the same time when you have your NIMC, you can generate BBN, and then you can also generate an account number for every person, that individual. And then that's why I've mentioned that there is alignment and malalignment in the country. In education and many other ministries that have council, those decisions are taken in the council, owned by everybody, and they will go down and cascade it and step it down so that you can have a uniform acceptance. And this, as of today now, we don't have National Council on Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, though we have agreed that that will be also our major program and success to establish that council. But meanwhile, in the absence of that, we have to work from what? at what level to ensure that those people that are due to be in right register will be given those 3 numbers instantly at a stop shop. Not you go and come back, go and come back. Some may not be able to do that.
It sounds a lot like
we have also, as mentioned earlier, we have started advocacy to the state governors and the Nigerian Government Forum so that all of them, we can get their buying in and we work it together. If you walk through the Nigerian Government Forums and through the other, from what level, what can you say, you find that each and every party that is supposed to be a party that has a seat is represented in that. So you cannot tell me because this is not, no, it's not an APC affair, it's the affairs of Mr. President because he was voted by Nigerians and he's leading Nigeria. So it's not a party affair.
It sounds like
if it's going to be a party affair, it will have been championed by the APC national chairman. But this has been championed by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
I hear you clearly, Honorable Minister. So allow me to butt in, if you can. It sounds like you are designing a strategy for automating the process. Specifically, are you saying that the days of giving out cash in marketplaces and villages are over, that the beneficiaries of this program will now have the money done digitally?
Even if you are going to give to the women, market women in the this thing, you have to encourage them to have a digital account. You have to. You have to. And then you can also make a transfer to them because what we are talking is accountability. If I go to, let's say I go to any market and give 50,000 women, and I now said I've given 5 million women, can you disprove that? You can't. But if it's used through a digital listing, the account numbers and everything will be there. If I say I've given 50 million, you will see those 50 million in terms of the account number, everything. So, and it's going to be a timeline in terms of record. So this is what we are saying. We see the issue is about accountability. And that's what Mr. President is also saying. Accountability, be accountable. If you cannot be accountable, look, government money, when you remove it, there must be a process and procedures. And I said so. Now, most of those these things are backed by data that after implementation. If I've given 50,000 women without record of anything in terms of their name, how will I now convince the auditors that such money was spent through those people? It becomes a decision. So if I'm indicted that I've never given anything, I only give 3 or 5 people, I can't defend myself. I cannot defend myself. And the government will be subjected to a lot of ridicule.
It sounds good because with electronic transfer, it's more accountable. The more you see cash, the more the possibility of the issues we've had in the past.
So the only issue, which is a major issue that we are looking at, is to see how do we address the concerns of average Nigerian that a lot of people do not have digital identity. And this is what I've mentioned, how we are going to go about it. You understand? While we are updating the register, we are also trying to revalidate it to make sure that all the necessary components that are supposed to be in the register are there.
And it's also a good opportunity to get more people to go cashless. If they know money is coming to them and all they have to do is get registered, it also boosts our database and what have you. The issue here is that if the palliatives are not getting to them, then we have a problem. It becomes what we generally conceive as a conduit pipe for corruption and mismanagement of public resources. The responsibility, many Nigerians are now looking forward to your ministry to adopt all of these effective strategies that you have talked about. Let's talk about the partnerships and collaboration that your ministry is considering in the new year in order to achieve these goals.
Well, we have a lot of collaboration in terms of the execution of our activities. And if you look at the 8th point of agenda, Mr. President, it shows a lot of areas of collaboration, interministerial, and then it even says you tap from relevant skills. When you are tapping from relevant skills, it doesn't restrict you to only your ministry. You look at what are the core ministry, but we are going to start it within the ministry. As I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of we have agencies within the ministry that have, in terms of their in terms of their functions, are somehow interrelated. If you want to provide humanitarian services, for example, people under the senior citizens are in that group also. Those who are under Disability Commission are also in that. And also those who are refugee and internally displaced person are also belong to. You understand? But the issue is that we have to work together to ensure that we have pool resources and that we avoid duplication in such a way that it may do away with accountability. Because once you don't give responsibility and you don't assign target, you allow people to come and do it at random. The possibility that some will do, but because others have done, those that refuse, some may refuse to do it and assume it's done because someone has done it. So that's why we say we have to look at the internally within the ministry and the addition. And I also mentioned after we finish with ministry, we're moving out of ministry to strengthen our alliances. For example, right now we have a collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and then NALDA, which we have seen a pilot project that I was in Plateau. I've commissioned the harvesting of the internally displaced farm under the Renewed Hope Agenda Agricultural Empowerment Program, so that we can see, and this is the meaning, why are we going into this? We do agree that social services of humanitarian support are not the end and the beginning of the things. They are just supposed to provide a stopgap. And once you have this, you must have entry and you must have an exit point. Once you enter, then there should be a ground plan to ensure that you have been prepared to exit and live on your own. So for the internally displaced persons, what we do is to see how we can align, get a plot of lands, provide all necessary in terms of collaboration with agencies I've mentioned to this thing, and then the internally displaced person will provide supervisory and working this thing. So we have harvested, and after we have harvested, the 30% of all the harvest will now go to the internally displaced person as a food component. Now the 70%
Honorable Minister,
will be uptaken by, and they
allow me to butt in for a minute.
Which,
yes, we're running out of time now. Let's get in some viewers to also make their input on this conversation. Mr. George has called in from Lagos. Good morning. Mr. George, are you still there?
Okay. Good morning, and good morning to the Honorable Minister. Let me
good morning, Mr. George. You're welcome.
For keeping the program going throughout the holiday. You've been here every day, and I've been wondering how you are coping with your family at the same time. So I want to thank you and the members of your crew who are behind the scenes that have kept the program going throughout the holiday period.
Thank you.
I want to ask the minister one question. There is this impediment of corruption that has, affected the work of your ministry, sir.
Yes,
I
sir.
remember there used to be a school feeding program. That one doesn't seem to be on the scene again. The number of items you take care of, why don't you reduce them? If you ask me, I say either you concentrate on the school feeding program or you monetize it to the students of the schools. At least we can say in this school, there are 1,000 students. In that school, there are 500 students. And this is how much was given to them to feed themselves while in school for so period. That one, you can account for it. For this one that we are sending to parents, market women, and all that, they are all subject to the degrees of corruption. Do you want to consider that? It's just a question, sir. Thank you.
Well, it's a question and it's a proper question. But let's look at the concept itself of the homeschool ground feeding program. It's not only meant, yes, it's meant to not only to address the nutritional requirement of those primary 1 to 3 pupils. No, it's also meant to empower local community in terms of in countries like Brazil, Kenya, and many other countries that have gone far in school feeding problem. That is used to source food material from the local environment of that this thing. So through the sourcing, you are improving the market of those local community. So some will go, some may start small poultry, that egg can be purchased from them, others will be concentrating on farming and producing for, vegetables for it to be used. You understand? And so you also have aggregators who now come in to ensure that the farmer that produce that is not in any way shortchanged, and also to ensure that the farmers do not, and then the field millers will not also shortchange the student by giving inferior quality food. You understand? But what is just needed is for us to, as I mentioned earlier, the internal auditing we have done to ensure that we adhere to due process in terms of award. You understand? When you give somebody who has no capacity to feed his family a school to feed, you are really not helping the situation, and really he cannot manage it the way you want to. So it shouldn't be as a means of settling political needs of an individual. It should be as a means of ensuring that more students are enrolled in the school, more students are returned into school, more local community are empowered to produce food locally to aid our food security in Nigeria. So it's a whole lot of value of change that we can do and make it better. And I think that's what we are going to do. And then if you look at the school home feeding program, it's not limited to Nigeria. It's just international, as big as Japan and economically, they have problems. They have school feeding programs. You also have it in India. You have it in Ghana. You have it in many countries. And then we have seen the advantage. And those advantages cannot be given by giving money directly to the parent. There are some parents that if you give them that money, instead of going to give food to the student to go to school, will go and buy fowl, or you got even this Meshai, this thing, and take bread and egg and go away without even at the expense of the child. So we have to look at the pros and cons. So
I want us to quickly explore the position that some have also talked about. For instance, some have argued that skill acquisition is more effective than food palliatives in reducing poverty. Do you intend to balance these approaches in the ministry's programs?
Yes, I quite agree with you. That is true. Palliative, I mentioned, is not a permanent solution. It's just a stopgap, because at any time you must have emergency, either natural or human-made. And when you have such natural disasters or human-made disasters, palliatives come into being, because you cannot allow your people to just roam away like that. Because the president wants to improve the prosperity and the dignity of average Nigerian, and that must be protected. So palliative will still come to be. But that's what I mentioned. And when I also planning to tell you that I mentioned earlier, there must be an entry and exit point of any humanitarian find. And then during the humanitarian provisions, that's where now we come with the concept of skill development. And right now, in this month to come, we are going to focus in 3 areas in terms of our skill development. We are looking at food security. We are going into agricultural intervention. I've mentioned the one we have started with National Commission for Refugee, Migrant, and Internally Displaced Persons, the RIP project. And then I said also that we are also going to now develop agriculture. We are looking at the areas. In the southeast, we are paying more attention into cassava production. In the southwest, we are going to look at the cocoa and maize. And then when you come to the northwest, we are looking at rice. And then in the north central and many other places that have favorable atmosphere, we are looking at a green agriculture, green farming. We are going to concentrate youths who have interest, not this time around the normal empowerment that you go and give what you call a sewing machine to somebody who has not even had interest. He has never gone to even learn how to put a thread into a needle, and you are giving him a sewing machine. It means you are just telling him, look, I bought this 200,000, you can go and give it at 50,000 and carry your money and go. You understand? That's not. We are trying to build their skills so that we can leave them with their interests and continue to support them over time. And we are also looking at the renewable energy too. We are going to get youth that we are going to train and implement. And in our own, where we are going into agriculture, for example, in the rural market, we are looking how much we can do to assist them in terms of with the solar-powered energy storage system that they can use in terms of keeping their vegetables, in terms of keeping their fish and what have you. Now, those people that we are going to train in the solar energy production are the ones to go and do those installations as their own practical processes that we can do. And once it's done that, they have finished and we are certified that they are into it and they can do it perfectly. We give them their own starter pack and they will go and recruit more people. Okay. And then we are also moving into auto mechanic too. In the auto mechanic, we are also, just a few weeks ago, the minister was in Lagos. He met with the GAG Motors, and they have a lot of training centers in the country, and we are going to also partner with them. And then we have a lot other side, like if you go to Kaduna, Panteka is a very whole lot of areas where mechanic issues are addressed. If you go to Lagos, if you go to this, what do you call it, when you are talking about repair of phones and this, the village there are a lot you can do, and we are working together also with my experience and stay in the Federal Ministry of Education with the National Board of Technical Education, so that all those that were trained under this program were already
sounds like a long list, and it sounds robust. We lost a call from Samuel in Jalingo. We apologized for that, but Reverend Dominic is on the line. If we can take that call for about a minute before we go. Good morning, Reverend. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning, Ferry. Can you hear me?
Yes, please turn down the volume of your TV.
I don't know if the minister, honorable minister, can hear me too, but I want to direct the question to him. Can the minister hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
You are welcome, Reverend.
Good morning, honorable minister. This is a question.
Good morning, Reverend. You are welcome.
Yeah, honorable minister, is this scheme made only for APC members? I ask this question because of this. I'm a pastor. I'm not just an international pastor. I'm a local pastor.
I'm not going. I didn't say. No, let me correct you, sir. I didn't say for APC. I said this thing is owned by the federal government, and it's not. He mentioned whether it is an APC affair. I said no. I say it's national. That's why it's not run in the headquarters of APC. Yes.
Yes, I know. Can you get the question?
Yes,
sir?
yes. Okay.
Get what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Okay.
Get my drift, sir. Look at where I'm going to. Don't listen to me, sir.
Okay, sir. I'm listening.
What I'm trying to say is this. As a local pastor
sir.
who has a lot of poor people in this church, I don't find anybody who is a beneficiary of this thing. What I'm trying to say is it's not for only APC members. At least who are pastors, have some people on the, on grassroots. So to find one or two persons that have been a beneficiary of this thing. Since the days of clarity now, I have found one. My solution is instead of you putting this money in humanitarian affairs and the politics, why not you create, skill acquisition? If a man gets a skill, whether it's a bricklayer or a tailor or whatever he does, or a painter, when he's going to paint a house, you're not going to ask for, is it APC painter or APC bricklayer? It will be a service to a nation. This politics is not helping because it's not getting to grassroots. I'm a pastor. I live in a little show here. I pastor a very poor people. I'm not seeing one person who got $1.
Well, the Reverend.
I don't know if you have heard him well, so that you can tell me his question.
Yes. I was also struggling really to get a grasp of his contribution. I think he had a very poor network. But, Honorable Minister, we have completely run out of time.
But I think, let me just say that from my decision, let's just agree that this is a national project, and Mr. President is for all Nigerians, and Mr. President is sure that poverty doesn't say this is APC, PDP, AFGA, or any other person, and he's leading Nigerians. Where party issues come, Mr. President will handle it as a party issue. Where national issues are, Mr. President also will address it as a national issue. And as far as the issue of humanitarian crisis and poverty reduction is concerned, Mr. President is addressing it as a national issue. And that's
Thank you so
directive
much.
to the ministry. We must take the issues as a national one. For example, now I was in Plateau, I've mentioned. Plateau is not an APC state. The governor is a PDP. You understand? My minister was in, we were supposed to be in Bauchi last week. We couldn't make it. Bauchi is also an APC state. We are going there on the 7th of this month. If not for the budget depend. You understand? So this is to show that we are addressing issues as national based on their exigencies and the need. You see, humanitarian affairs is something that is done by need of the society, and President is fully aware of that.
I'm shocked that 1 hour appears not to be enough for this conversation. Dr. Sununu, perhaps we're going to continue this conversation more often in the course of the year. I've been speaking with the Damadin Yauri. I hope I got that right. The Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. Thank you so much for talking to us on the program this morning, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
Well, that's our program today, everyone. Thanks for being a part of it. We'll be back subsequently with more. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.